team is discussing signing Robert Griffin III. Bisciotti also said the team is still talking about signing Colin Kaepernick, and he has spoken to Joe Flacco, Ray Lewis, and sponsors about the possibility of bringing Cap to Baltimore. Let's take a listen to more from Bisciotti.
Quantify hurting the brand, I know that we're going to upset some people, and I know that we're going to make people happy that we stood up for somebody that has the right to do what he did. You know, nonviolent protesting is something that we've all embraced. I don't like the way he did it. Personally, I kind of liked it a lot when he went from sitting to kneeling. I don't know. I'm Catholic. We spend a lot of time kneeling. We're very sensitive to it, and we're monitoring it, and we're still, as Ozzy says, scrimmaging it, and we're trying to figure out what's the right tact. And so pray for us. We do want to win games, and I'm not sure right now that he is going to help us do that.
Shannon, what's your take?
I know Steve. I don't know him as well as I knew Art Modell. But let me take this. Okay. He said he liked when Colin went from sitting to kneeling.
First he said he didn't like what he did.
He didn't like what he did.
Okay, right.
But then he said, Skip, he liked it better when he went from sitting to kneeling.
Yep.
But he never mentioned why Colin Kaepernick kneeled. See, he said, and we didn't mention it here, he says, if you don't think, he said, well, I don't know if Colin can help us win games. If you don't think he can help you win games, there's nothing else to discuss.
No.
You don't need to talk to sponsors. You don't need to talk to Joe Flacco. You don't need to talk to Ray Lewis. You don't think he can help you win a ball game in a discussion. You believe the guy that you have, Ryan Mallett, who threw 5 interceptions, that's neither here nor there, Skip. You believe if Joe Flacco is down for a substantial amount of time, you do not believe Colin Kaepernick can help you win a game, Skip. What's the discussion? Why are we talking to sponsors? Let me ask you a question. This is what I want Mr. Bisciotti to answer me. He has my number. He can call me. In 2010, they signed one Dante Stallworth. Dante Stallworth was intoxicated, drove his vehicle, and killed a pedestrian. Did he call any fan? Did he call any sponsor? Did he talk to Ray Lewis? When Terrell Suggs went through what he went through with his wife, did he call any sponsors? Did he call any fans? Did he talk to Ray Lewis about how and what they should do with this situation?
Very good point.
I find it very, very convenient. Now he wants to lean on someone. Now, I don't know if Mr. Steve, I don't call him Mr. I call him Steve. Steve is a very smart man. And I don't equate smart just because you have a lot of money, because sometimes you can inherit money and it doesn't make you smart. Steve Bisciotti rolled up his sleeves, and he got his money the old-fashioned way. He earned it. So he's a very smart man. Steve Bisciotti is the owner of the Ravens that play in Baltimore. Does he know what the ratio is with the African-American population in Baltimore? 63%. There's something happened in 2015, Skip. The Baltimore Orioles played a game in the day in which no fans were allowed to come. Does Steve know why they did that? Because there was a young man named by the name of Freddie Gray that was killed at the hands of the police. The very thing that Colin Kaepernick was protesting was the very thing that our president of the United States on Friday encouraged, which was police brutality. I have yet to hear an owner. I have yet to hear a sponsor. I have yet to hear a fan speak out and say, how could the president of the United States encourage such said violence, while the man that protested and tried to bring light to it is demonized, is scoffed upon? Skip, I'm going to need you to explain, break this down in its simplest forms. And Skip, I want you to explain it to me if I was 8. They're talking about Colin Kaepernick like he killed someone, like he killed something, like he abused someone, like he took someone's property. Skip, they're having these meetings with sponsors and fans and Ray Lewis. And I know what people are saying. People are like, you asking Ray? Skip, I was with Ray. A lot of what Ray went through, I was there. When Ray was going to court, the trial in Atlanta, Who picked him up every day to go work out? And even I said, look here, stop paying all that money, living in a hotel. Come stay with me. When the trial was over, Ray and I went and ran together. He and I lifted together. We spent a lot of time at my kitchen bar telling him how I think he should do things and how he should move forward. I said, because Ray, I'm closer to the end than the beginning. But what I want you to do, and I want you to be able to do, is to share some of the things that I'm giving you, and you can pass that along the line. But we keep talking about, Mr. Steve said the prayer, he's Catholic, the kneeling. But when will these owners ever address the issue that led Colin to do what he did? Skip, I cannot believe that some of these owners are putting Colin Kaepernick in the same boat as an abuser, a murderer, a guy that killed dogs, a guy that took someone's property. Skip, I don't get it. And no owner yet. All they keep talking about, he disrespected the flag. Oh, he disrespected the veterans. I have yet to hear an owner say what Colin Kaepernick is protesting is absolutely right. I don't agree with what he's doing and how he's doing it. But the police brutality against unarmed black and brown women and men in America is wrong. When they start doing that, I will take them serious. And until then, all you careful about is the status quo, because something that will never, ever affect you directly, you have no issue, you have no concerns with. And I'm just,
I have no answers on this one. What I saw on this video that we just saw of Mr. Bisciotti speaking to fans at a Baltimore Ravens fan forum with the commissioner up on stage with him, with Roger Goodell on a stool right down the row from him. It boggled my mind, it confused and confounded me, and ultimately defied explanation except for this one. I'm going to throw it out again. In the end, it felt staged to me. It felt like what I keep saying is happening in the NFL. It felt like lip service. It felt like they had to put on a show, literally to show that, hey, we're thinking about this. He was actually thinking out loud. What should I do? Ozzie Newsome, African-American general manager, says that, this is Bisciotti, that we're scrimmaging this, meaning we're going back and forth with this idea. Should we or should we not? But he also floats out there in the middle of this, he just volunteers, and we're going to bring in Robert Griffin III and work him out.
African-American.
Okay, so that might qualify as the Kaepernick signing, except obviously Robert didn't kneel or sit for the anthem.
Didn't take a team to the Super Bowl either.
No, well, obviously he didn't. And by the way, just for the record, I'm I used to be the biggest RG3 fan. And it's laughable to me that right now you would think that Robert Griffin III is better than Colin Kaepernick just off last year alone, when Colin, and again, I'm not saying he's the greatest player ever played, but he was pretty good last year. And you look at his track record, and it's very good. And you look at what happened to that sad sack franchise that he was trying to be the franchise quarterback for after they pushed Jim Harbaugh out the back door. I can defend him because last year he had 16 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, and his QBR was about 10 points or so, maybe 13 points higher than Robert's. Robert was 2 touchdowns to 3 interceptions in 5 games for Cleveland, and you don't talk about shell of yourself. I couldn't even watch it.
Just for the record, Skip, Colin Kaepernick in the history of the NFL has the 17th higher passer rating in NFL history. Better than Warren Moon's, better than John Elway's, better than Carson Palmer's, better than a lot of guys, better than Eli Manning. So I'm just saying, all this now is, at first it was Colin can't play. Well, at first it was the protest. Well, the protest that Colin can't play. Then it was his hairstyle. Now, I will give Ozzie Newsome credit. Ozzie is there because I believe, and I always felt that the Baltimore Ravens, because of the city and the demographics, because John Harbaugh is on firm soil, so is Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie Newsome is on the firmest soil because he's done something since 1996 no other general manager's done. He's drafted 4 Hall of Famers. He drafted Ray Lewis and Jonathan Ogden in 1996.
He did.
He drafted Ed Reed, who's going to be a first ballot. And he also drafted Terrell Suggs, who's going to go into the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So he has very good credibility and a very good grasp. Ozzie, at the end of the day, Ozzie's job, and he knows that if they were to sign Colin, there will be some blowback and some sponsors might leave. But Ozzie Newsome's number one job is to win games. So let me ask you this.
By the way, this is not Ozzie's call. I just don't believe it.
It's not.
Sorry, it's the owner's call.
Let me ask you this, Skip. Let's just say for the sake of argument, and that's what you and I do from time to time, we argue.
Mm-hmm.
The Baltimore Ravens are 3-11 heading into December. How many fans you think are going to be in those stands? I don't care who they sign. At the end of the day, the fans want to win. And I get it. There's going to be some booing going on and all this with the backlash. I sure want to know. And John Mara, and I'm talking to Mr. Kraft, and I'm talking to Mr. Woody Johnson, the guys that supported Trump. Have any fans sent you any letters about what President Trump said on that stage on Friday? I would like to know. The President of the United States encouraged something that the man that's being demonized, that's being castigated, that's being looked down upon, that's an outcast, he tried to discourage. Now, there have been a lot of police departments that said, we don't condone what he said. We will use the necessary force that requires for us to apprehend a suspect. The police job, Skip, is not to dole out punishment. That's why we have a court system. Everybody is presumed innocent until he or she has their day in court. That's why we have judges. That's why we have a jury. And that's how we determine punishment. But the police job is not to do all of that on the streets. So I want these owners, instead of looking at Colin Kaepernick and what he did, let's talk about why he did it. I have yet to hear Mr. Kraft talk about that.
I agree. So now we had reports over the weekend. Ryan Mallett is struggling taking first-team reps for the Baltimore Ravens. Not shocked here.
You mean the guy that overslept in Houston?
You know, that guy.
The guy that was a bad teammate that was falling asleep in me? Oh.
And we also had new reports from, I guess, the Kaepernick camp. No more protests this year of any variety.
He said that 4 months ago.
I know, but now it's like nothing. No way, shape, or form. I'm done with that. Took my stand, or I didn't take my stand, and I let it rest. That's the vibes we're getting, the reports we're getting from their camp. And yet, Bisciotti is saying, we don't know what to do. Pray for us. Pray for us. Yeah, I am kind of praying for you because you need help here. But Like you need different kind of help than just decision-making help.
Skip, it's Colin Kaepernick, and a lot of people, what they were trying to do, Colin needs to talk. Colin needs to do this, do that. A lot of reporters were trying to flush Colin out so they could get the interview, and Colin wasn't biting. Now, normally, a guy that's 29 that played in January doesn't need to tell you. Baltimore had an offensive lineman, Skip, John Urschel. He's going to get a PhD in mathematics from MIT. The league. They tell you they're not going to play as opposed to telling you, I want to play.
Look, I get this. I don't want to get too deep in this. I get it that this is all about those sponsors who are sitting in the stands there where I think they're out in the stands at their stadium. And these people pay the freight now. And those people, many of them very patriotic, and I don't want to get too deep. I get where they're coming, but they're not opening their mind to the message that Colin was trying to send. Again, does Colin have some feel for and respect for the history of this country? Obviously, if you've seen Dunkirk, you know what happened, that event. It saved the world, man. It really did, because that guy in Germany, he was going to take over the world. And if he had been successful, you and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So those veterans are saying, we fought wars on two fronts, in the Pacific and in Europe, and we saved this country from that rule or that rule, right? And so they can't give it up. They can't open up to this. So I get where both sides are coming from, but there needs to be some meeting of the minds here because it's not fair to this kid.
Yeah. And a lot of the black soldiers that fought on those two continents and two countries, when they came back, they were second-class citizens.
Yeah. Well, he also conflicted what he said conflicted with what Roger Goodell said, that the team is going to sign them specifically based off of what's going to make him better. And Rashadi said the actual opposite
he did
of
the
that.
opposite.
Yeah. Next up, LeVar Ball was given a technical foul